Hi, my name is Aditya Save, and I'm going to share with you my research on the impact of consumption values on consumer purchase behavior in online gaming. I think most of you are already familiar with gaming as a business. Maybe a few of you even know that gaming today is a business which is bigger than English movies and English music put together. There are two primary segments within gaming: online and offline gaming. Online gaming has grown really fast because of smartphone penetration. My research focused on a particular segment within smartphone based online gaming called F2P. F2P stands for free to play, and this is today the largest segment within online gaming. In fact, it is so big that 94% of all games released last year were released as F2P, which means that consumers could download these games and play them without having to pay for them. As a result of this, these images are probably very familiar to you. But what you will notice is that while 94% of these games were F2P, they helped increase gameplay by 61% and time spent by 21%, but only a 14% increase in revenue, which means compared to 61% gameplay, it tells you that a lot of people played games but didn't really buy anything in those games. And so the business problem here is that of actual studio survival, because the studios need to pay for technology, need to pay for their teams, they need to pay for upgradation, they perhaps even need to pay for new game titles. So they need money to survive. Look at it from a consumer lens. This is a massive category. 2.5 billion people around the world play games, and yet only about 5% of them have ever made an in app purchase, which means that the studios are dependent on this revenue coming through. So, my research focused on trying to understand the linkage between game consumption and in app purchase. My quantitative study focused on trying to understand the influence of game consumption values on the consumer decision making process while making in app purchases in these F2P games. I use five consumption values: functional, social, emotional, epistemic, and conditional. My statistical problem, in many ways, was to try and find out the extent to which these consumption values predicted the odds of in app purchases occurring. I use binary logistic regression, and here is what I found. I found that three kinds of consumption values: functional, emotional, and conditional, are able to significantly influence the occurrence of an IAP, whereas social and epistemic do not significantly influence IAPs. Further, I was able to find out that functional consumption values and conditional consumption values are positively correlated to IAP occurrence, while emotional is negatively influenced. What does this mean? This means that every time the functional consumption value rating goes up by a unit, there is a 5x possibility of an IAP occurring, which means that if the game studio focuses on bare bone basics, which is ensuring that the game is error free, making sure that the gameplay experience is above a certain level, ensuring that it is benchmarked to other games around, pricing is affordable, and the game provides value for money in terms of both experience and gameplay, it is more likely that a consumer will consider making an IAP. Similarly, on consumption values, for every unit increase in consumption value rating, there is a 2x increase in the likelihood of an IAP occurring. This means that most consumers are future facing. They are as concerned about the perceptions of experience as they are about the experience of the game itself. But I think the most successful and the most surprising part of this was the finding around emotional consumption values. I discovered that higher enjoyment can actually reduce IAP beyond a certain point. This means that if you provide too much enjoyment to a consumer, he is unlikely to consider making an in-app purchase. So the concept of an enjoyment threshold is something that I discovered during this process. In fact, this is so sharp that for every unit increase in emotional enjoyment, there was a 66% chance of reduction in the likelihood of an in-app purchase. That's definitely something game studios need to consider while designing their games. So I think there are three contributions to business through this research. One is the fact that in-app purchase has got factors that influence it, and these factors can perhaps help these game studios survive and thrive. The second is the fact that with a quantitative relationship between consumption and purchase now established, maybe quantitative modeling around purchase related parameters is possible for these game studios. And the third is that in-app purchase can be considered a serious contributor as a source of game revenue. In fact, the problems that occur within the gaming community also occur elsewhere. Look at all these extremely popular digital products. All of them have one thing in common. They all provide themselves to consumers for free and then hope for a later purchase. So the findings of my study could perhaps be extended beyond gaming to entertainment and SaaS businesses as well. And in-app purchase could perhaps be seen as a consistent source of user-driven revenue rather than depending on advertising, perhaps. In summary, I would like to say there are three things that happen. One is that there is now a quantitative proof between consumption and purchase. The second is that functional as well as conditional consumption values are both important, and the fact that too much enjoyment can actually hurt the chances of in-app purchases occurring. And the third is that perhaps in-app purchases as a science can be applied beyond gaming to SaaS and entertainment. Thank you so much.